What's happening, fandoms?
Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here,
we react to music videos and shows.
Today we're going back to Eric Voss and the New Rockstar's crew. They're breaking down Secret Invasion for us, and boy, do we need it!
I know.
This show,
oh my gosh,
with its people who can be anyone, and its mystery and intrigue and secret spy, secret super squirrel society nonsense. We have no idea what's going on at any given moment.
I know my eyes were like wide open yesterday, and I could not even like say anything because I was just super confused.
Yep.
As again,
we think
dazed and confused.
We think there are two distinct Nick Furies.
Yes.
One that wears glasses and one that's scruffy with a hat and no glasses. And we think that one of those is a Skrull. We don't know which one. Maybe Eric will talk about it, but I haven't seen anybody saying anything about it yet.
And
but he's definitely going to tell us some stuff about why Rhodey is who he is and who that Skrull is.
And also, what's his name died?
Talos.
Talos.
Yes. Rest in peace, Talos.
Do you think he's gonna come back?
I do not think that.
We'll see.
I think that was a play taps for F's in the chat for Talos.
What if it's a Skrull that
was pretending to be Talos? Don't know. Maybe Eric will say something about that.
Here
Let's
we go.
see.
Rockstars, I'm Eric Voss, and this is a breakdown of Secret Invasion Episode 4, Beloved, which finally gives us that steamy Cheetle shower scene we've all been waiting for. Boom, you looking for this?
Yes.
Let's go through this episode frame by frame for all the details and the Skrull-spiracies you missed. And New Rockstars is now 3 channels. This main channel for Easter egg breakdowns, the deep dive for special film analyses, and the break room, where you will find our Secret Invasion after show Inside Marvel. Subscribe to all 3 and support our network with a Skrull-inspired shirt from nerdriot.shop. Let's get started. The episode opens with Gaia where Gravik left her last episode, and as I expected, not dead. Last episode, we did see Gaia in that fracking pod room passing Dr. Rosa Dalton, which now we see her taking her memories to know how to use the DNA to turn herself into a super Skrull. And you can see Gaia's eyes and cheeks getting flushed with purple blood as she absorbs this information. What's interesting here is that Gaia is getting this from the humans' memories. Think about it, the human Dr. Dalton in that pod wouldn't know how to do all this unless the process was created before the Skrull assumed her identity. That means the whole super Skrull operation of harvesting DNA from enhanced beings was a process created by human scientists before the Skrulls hijacked it. So what were the humans working on before all this? Were these AIM scientists trying to bring back the extremist program? Weapons Plus scientists trying to make super soldiers? What are these damn humans doing? But remember, there is a Charles Dalton who's a member of the MI-13 in the Marvel Comics, a government liaison between S.H.I.E.L.D. and AIM, so maybe the name Dalton was specific for that reason. A close-up of Gaia's screen shows extremists on the far left, and layered beneath it, Frost Beast and Cull Obsidian, which I take to mean they're all just not selected here as opposed to Gaia getting all of these powers. But on the right side of that screen, we see the conditions of extremists, healing abilities, and heat strength. So it's both the ability to regrow tissue rapidly and spontaneously generating fire, which comes handy if you get caught in an explosion. And Emilia Clarke, like her Game of Thrones co-star Jon Snow in season 6, we stay on her dead body for a beat until
I know,
resurrection.
right?
The extremists, the technology from Iron Man 3, heals the bullet wound, and we hear the heartbeat. But I gotta point out how Gaia immediately reverts back from her Skrull green skin to human upon waking up. Like, for someone who prefers home in her own skin, it's almost instinctual that she'd be in human form whenever she's alive, and not even take a second to stay in her Skrull body. Okay, moving on. Like last episode, we flash back to a moment in the past with Fury and Varys / Priscilla. Here, it's 2012 in Paris, right after the Battle of New York in the first Avengers movie. A newspaper reads in French, Les Avengers, le Battle de New York, which I guess translates to, no, we could not come up with a better headline, so we did it literal. As Fury walks in, he passes a black woman and has a moment with her. Now, I don't think Fury is confusing her for his wife, but it does show that Fury has a type, and Vara was right to pick the human form that she did. And the fact that Vara did this is just not sitting right with me. I'm gonna get to it more in this analysis. But we see how Samuel L. Jackson has been de-aged again, but this time just simply back to his appearance in that 2012 movie. Maybe it's the warm lighting, but Jackson didn't have quite as thin and smooth of a face in 2012. Also, the eye patch clings a little too neatly to his face, and his goatee seems to be a bit thicker and look more glued on than Jackson's natural hair did in 2012. Yes, I'm nitpicking. Overall, it looks really great. It's just
Yeah.
when you're visually referencing one of the biggest movies of all time, an era the MCU constantly revisits, instead of de-aging normally, just suggesting a hypothetical youth in a character's life, it's just harder to fool us. But I bring it up because this orange lighting gives this whole scene a fictitious, nostalgic, rose-tinted glasses
Yeah,
quality. Like
it
Fury is
does.
recalling a romantic past with Vara that was never actually real. Vara tells
Right.
Fury that after seeing the Battle of New York and the formation of the Avengers, she assumed it must have been him who brought them together. Think about it, as a Skrull, she would be especially sensitive to a group of Terrans and one Asgardian beginning to build a suit of armor around the world to ward off extraterrestrial invaders. Vara says Fury has a, quote, powerful sense of righteousness, which reminds me of Jules' famous Pulp Fiction monologue about the path of the righteous man is beset on all sides by the iniquities of the selfish and the tyranny of evil men. Remember, that Bible verse, Ezekiel 25:17, is on Nick Fury's fake tombstone from Captain America Winter Soldier, a direct homage to Jules in Pulp Fiction. Last week I pointed out how in 1998, Vara was reading Raymond Carver's A New Path to the Waterfall, and she talks about Carver here, how he's known for his brevity, but his poems pack a punch, just like Fury does. But Vara has Fury read from Carver's poem, Late Fragment.
And did you get what you wanted from this life?
This
Even
is
so.
super well done.
I did.
And what did you want?
To call myself beloved. To feel myself beloved on the earth.
So I pointed out last episode that Carver wrote this collection when he was dying prematurely from lung cancer. But his life had turned around from a new marriage with Tess Gallagher. They were only married for 6 weeks. But in these dying months, Carver got what he wanted from his life, to feel beloved on this earth. And we can view this as a romantic statement, but it's also another way of saying home in my own skin. Vara wants to feel home on this earth. But it's also another example of extraterrestrial Skrulls valuing and needing human scientific and cultural achievements. Vara cannot honestly tell Fury she loves him, so she has to use the words of a human poet to do it. Back in the present, Vara meets Scrody, that I'm now going to call Skrull Rhodey, because it's not Rhodey, but it is Scrody. They meet at the St. James Church that he told her to meet him at last episode. The choir sings the song Deep River, which is an African-American spiritual popularized by Henry Burleigh in his 1916 collection, but really written by anonymous sources, because it was one of many songs that was passed down by slaves. And yeah, it feels pretty odd for a bunch of white British Catholics to be singing a black spiritual, but I think that's the idea, especially considering Vara and Scrody are Skrulls appropriating black humans, with Vara even admitting to doing this to appeal to Fury's type. This is so messed up. But we should point out that one of the most popular renditions of Deep River was by Paul Robeson in the 1940 film The Proud Valley, recalling Sonia Falsworth's likening of Nick Fury with Paul Robeson in episode 1. But here, Scrody brags about firing Fury.
I DDT'd that dude from the top rope. Yeah, it was like Undertaker level.
Interesting that the Skrull posing as Rhodey would know her pro wrestling references, but also we're pretty sure that the Undertaker never actually did a top rope DDT. His DDT was more of a running variation, where the Undertaker did the DDT after sprinting toward the opponent. So in many ways, Scrody is a poser. Scrody winks at Vara, maybe a way of indicating to her that he knows that she's bugged, and to put on a little performance here for the eavesdropping husband. So we don't really know if Vara means it when she says,
He's broken. He's been broken ever since he came back from the blip. Oh, the old Fury. The one with power, the one with ability, the one who was indispensable to us. That Fury's gone. Oh, this new one.
Yeah, that's gotta hurt to hear that.
Soon enough.
This could be another reference to the two Furies I speculated about last episode. Like perhaps the reason Fury who came back seems so different is just a Skrull double posing as Fury. I get it, it's a reach theory, but you know, we'll see next episode. And Scrody warns,
You keep telling me what you're not gonna do. I'm gonna show you what I am going to.
yeah, I gotta give some credit to Don Cheadle here. He definitely plays this episode with more of a feminine energy, or at least a delicacy that he didn't really give off before. Pagan tells Gravik,
There's a reason Gaia isn't here with us.
She's the mole. I've already taken care of her.
Yes, sir.
yeah, remember the last time we saw Pagan, he was in human form on that submarine where it seemed like that British crew was pretty alarmed at why this guy tried to turn the missile keys. Somehow he got out of that mess, but now he's realizing that Gravik played him like a pawn in order to out Gaia. He's probably not feeling great about it. Gravik instructs the soldier,
Remember, we want him to think it's the Russians. Make it big, and loud, like the Russians would.
Yes, it sets up Gravik and the soldiers later yelling in Russian during the attack, but I think it demonstrates a misunderstanding about the Russians and human nature. Yes, Russian foreign policy is often chest-thumping, but the KGB, the clandestine operations of the Russian state, are famously discreet. They use things like poisoned water bottles. They don't often take credit for things. Even the militia they sent to occupy Crimea did not wear Russian flags or Russian uniforms or claim to be part of the Russian military. The only way we know it's Russia is that our intelligence services link it back to Russia. But it's not like Russian assassinations are trying to say, hey, it's the Russians, we did this. So yeah, I just think Gravik isn't that smart. So Talos pitches Gaia on his plan to shut down Gravik's insurgency somehow
not a
with
good
the three of
plan.
them. Then go to President Ritson, tell him you're welcome, and then get him to declare amnesty for 1 million scrolls? Never mind the legal authority the president would need for this, or the ability to do all of that while keeping it a secret, or the cost of it. Yeah, both Talos and Gravik have shitty plans. So Gaia doesn't buy it.
I'm with you, Eric. That's a shitty
And
plan.
by pushing this plan to get to Ritson later, Talos will die, slowly dragged back into his own skin. Now, the bench they sit on has the name Carter on it, and the date's 1993 to 2000. I was thinking maybe Peggy Carter, but Peggy was born long before 1933. She died way after 2000. She died in 2014. So who knows, maybe it could be someone related to her, or the Power Broker is sponsoring benches in London. So Vara comes home and sees Nick Fury's wedding ring in the dish, signaling to her that he might know about her loyalty to Gravik. Does he know? He knows. You're in danger, girl. Now, as Fury carries the tea over, you can see Vara discreetly pulling the gun out of her bag and hiding it under her leg. Now, Fury clocks this a moment later because he brings it up, but here it's easy to miss. And this is a gun that Vara got from the safety deposit box. It's an M&P Model 9, the pistol commonly used by S.H.I.E.L.D., one of Nick Fury's pistols. So, when they duel later, they are firing the same model gun at each other. Whereas before, Fury wore his spy glasses while talking to Vara, now he doesn't bother. He knows everything he needs to know about her. And yes, he probably caught Fury brewing that tea in a green kettle, as all their cookware is scroll green. Fury just comes out with it.
Of all the dumbass, wrong-headed, reckless
And he's wearing a green
things
jacket
I've
too,
done
sort
in
of.
my life,
Yeah.
you are by far and away the greatest mistake. I lost all my reason to be your husband.
So doing some math here, if Fury and Vara had been married for 12 years at this point, and Fury was gone for 5 of those years during the blip, this would be the 7-year itch. Vara reveals that she got this human form from a doctor, Priscilla Davis, who had a congenital heart defect and didn't want her family to know.
But at some point, I had to acknowledge the truth of what I was actually doing there in the first place.
Which was?
Looking for someone who would slip your defenses.
Oof! So, Vara disguised herself as a medical worker, I assume, initially, looking for a dying black woman of a certain age to use as a Nick Fury honeypot. I don't think I have to go into further detail on how messed up that is. But also, the fact that Fury never thought to ask this Skrull this question shows us that their marriage was never really on solid ground to begin with. Communication's everything, people. Vara says that the real Priscilla asked her to keep 3 promises. 1, to bury her at sea. So did Vara have to, personally cremate her and take the ashes out on a cruise? 2, to continue to be a daughter to her parents, and 3, to never hurt Fury. But just like Fury broke his promise to the Skrulls, so too did Vara to him. And just because we look at every name on the show, Priscilla Davis, any connection to Aaron Davis, Donald Glover's character in the MCU, I don't think she has kids, but maybe a nephew. Now you probably noticed throughout the scene, Vara's mask art is prominently displayed behind her on the wall, reflecting the many faces of deceit worn by this woman, literally as a Skrull, and metaphorically with her husband. They return to the Raymond Carver poem as a kind of dual countdown and a goodbye to their marriage, as this poem was a goodbye between Carver and his wife Tess. It was a dialogue. Gunshots fire, and the camera cuts around the house, and we see a framed book cover with Priscilla's face decoding the superhuman gene. This may have been the research that the Daltons used to develop the enhanced DNA harvesting technology that the Skrulls use for Super Skrulls. We also see a sculpture that looks like a DNA sequence next to it. Also, in the scene on the shelf behind Fury, there is an AMA Foundation Award for Excellence in Medicine. So, posing as a human doctor, it seems like Vara continued her scientific contributions to human society. She was really the opposite of the human stereotype Gravik raged against to the Skrull Council. But in the shootout, Fury and Vara didn't actually shoot each other, just shot past each other. Vara in the wall post, Fury in one of those stone masks on the wall, which could be his way of showing that even with one eye, he could still bullseye someone through the eye socket across the room. They end with this mutual agreement that their marriage is over, followed by a quick post-mortem question.
Would you have loved me if I'd never changed? If I'd been my true self?
Guess we'll never know.
Yeah.
It's a pretty grim take on marriage right now, recalling Henrik Ibsen's play A Doll's House or Gustave Flaubert's Madame Bovary, both of which carry a theme that men sometimes fall in love with the role their spouses can play in their own little doll's house while putting up blinders to the inner worlds of their wives and not really properly communicate with them or know them. And we cut from this scene to what we assume is Vara taking a cleansing shower because we see a female Skrull enjoying being in her own skin like it's a Pantene commercial, but no! She wipes the steam from the bathroom mirror and it is Scrody! I love the reveal on the mirror wipe, implying that it's a decisive and begrudging switch back to human form as opposed to a human body the Skrull has gotten used to, as seems to be the case with Gaia. The femininity of this Skrull as she's taken a shower seems to be a big deal here. And this is the first time we've seen a long-term sex swap on the series. I mean, we did see Talos briefly take a female form, but this is this Skrull's longtime human body. In the comics, the male Skrull Pagan took the form of the female Elektra. Now in the credits, this Skrull's name is Rava, who in the comics is a Skrull pirate who interacts with Black Bolt. Given Rava's outright villainy in this episode as she pretends to be Rhodey, I wonder if Rava might be set up as an alternate villain on the show, someone who could play the Skrull Queen Varanki role from the comics. Fury surprises Rhodey in his hotel suite.
I wanted to share my favorite liquid lunch with you. Pappy Van Winkle. 23 years of distilled perfection.
Oh my god, Pappy Van Winkle, 23. It's the same brand of whiskey from She-Hulk episode 2, the super expensive whiskey that Jen Walters' boss, Mr. Holloway, bought for her at the bar. And that bartender, remember, looked over at Jen to make sure she was sure about this. So Pappy Van Winkle, a very real and very expensive brand of whiskey, $5,000 to $6,000 a bottle. And we learned that in this whiskey, Fury put a liquid location tracker. And he actually even kind of tells Scrooge that he's doing this in the scene, making a nanobot joke. Now this has me wondering if all Pappy Van Winkles in the MCU have trackers in them, and Jen got boozed up in a similar plot by the Intelligentsia to steal her blood. I don't know, I just think it's a good new rule. If you're in the MCU, just don't drink Pappy Van Winkle 23. At least there's better ways to spend your money. But it's interesting how Scrody was surprised, because she was expecting Vara to kill Fury, but now that Fury's alive, Scrody knows that Vara couldn't go through with it. While Scrody does not drink at first, not trusting Fury, Fury plays low status. He frames this meeting as just wanting to get his job back, which fools Scrody into lowering her guard and drinking the Pappy. Now it's interesting how the TV screensaver reads, "Welcome Mr. Rhodes," with this weird A symbol. I'm assuming this is for the hotel that he's staying in. You know, sometimes when you check into a room, it just has your name on the screen. But still, I would think that the concierge would know to call him Colonel Rhodes and not Mr. Rhodes. Scrody shows Fury the footage of Gravik shooting Maria Hill, posing as Fury. This is the one Maria Hill sight in this episode that got Kobe Smulders a credit at the end of the episode. But even after Rhodey stops playing the footage, notice how the sound bar continues to fluctuate. Could just be an error, or it could indicate Scrody is recording their current conversation as well. Outside, protesters yell at Colonel Rhodes over the American conflict with Russia, and I like how one of the signs says Ridson instead of Ritson, with R-I-D underlined. Just that classic British wit. So President Ritson arrives from Air Force One, and Scrody says there's a full briefing for him inside Stagecoach, which is one of the nicknames for the Beast, which is the president's armored Cadillac. There's at least 9 of these. We don't really know everything about their construction, but the name Stagecoach comes from the 1939 John Ford directed, John Wayne starring Western, featuring a prolonged chase in a stagecoach. The idea is no matter how many bandits come after trying to break their way in, nothing will. I like how Scrody's bodyguard, poor guy, wearing a sling, a callback to Fury twisting and breaking his arm in the pub back in episode 2. Scrody weirds President Ritson out by touching his arm and quoting Vladimir Lenin, not John Lennon, but the Soviet leader, Vladimir, saying, "When you find flesh, you push. When you find steel, you stop." He's referring to a quote attributed to Lenin about probing with bayonets, and it's more commonly known as "when you find mush, you push." Either way, Ritson smells this as Colonel Rhodes pre-gaming with too much Pappy 23. And Scrody, what a jerk, still requires the one-armed aide to open the door for them, which the real James Rhodes would never ever do. So Scrody calls the other Skrulls to report that Citadel, the presidential code name for POTUS, is in the 4th car, and the Skrulls fire missiles from a helicopter. Customary boom looking for this. Now, for the US presidential motorcade to not have clear airspace in a friendly nation would mean that Gravik must also have Skrulls placed in the UK military. While the shootout goes down, Scrody just sits peacefully in their armored car, waiting for it all to end. One would think one of those Secret Service agents would ask, War Machine, Iron Patriot, don't know what your current name is, but could you suit up and help, please? Gravik and the other Skrulls yell loudly in Russian, which fools the Secret Service. Yeah, no question. I mean, is that really your job right now? But Fury fires an RPG at the helicopter, reminding us of that awesome moment when he fired an RPG at a jet, taking off with nukes in 2012's The Avengers. But Gravik's plan falls apart pretty fast, just by Fury being there. So he has to drop the Russian false flag plan and out himself as a Super Skrull, revealing his Groot arms. I like how we see the wood crack and splinter around the Secret Service agent. Yeah, that guy got pretty crushed. So Gravik now has 2 Super Skrull powers confirmed, Extremis and Groot. Does he also have Cull Obsidian and Frost Beast powers?
Of course he does.
Talos struggles struggles to punch through that armored glass, which would be 5 inches thick and would stop a .44 Magnum bullet. He takes a shot, causing him to partially revolt into Skrull form, and it looks really gnarly. Like the Skrull skin comes back in strips and ribbons, like skin grafts slowly working their way from the back of his head to his face. Really seems like death in this case is represented by green flesh and purple blood. Fury gets President Ritz into safety, and he notices the British soldier who nearly shot Talos before is helping Talos now. Fury knows that since he told that soldier to F off and leave Talos to him, this guy cannot be trusted, and it must be Gravik. So Fury shoots the soldier, and the reversion to Gravik gives off this interesting purple glow that we haven't seen before. This could be the Skrull skins and body armor that they wear, part of the Skrull technology for their clothes that follows their DNA transitions. Gravik stabs Talos in the heart, looking into Talos' Skrull eyes as he watches him die. Fury shoots Gravik in the chest, and then in the face. Whoa, ouch! The VFX artist added some crazy detail, some daylight from the bullet hole to show the exit wound, but also a piece of Gravik's ear ripped off. So did he turn that fast that the bullet would curve through his face flesh, and then as it exited would slice through part of his ear? I mean, I'm sorry to disapprove this, but that is one magic Fury bullet. It's like curving the bullet and won it. But either way, Extremis heals it. Gravik never even closes his eyes or winces. Remember, Extremis doesn't make you pain resistant, it just gives you rapid healing. And Fury, as he had to leave Maria Hill behind, now he has to leave Talos behind, losing allies by the episode. The episode ends similarly to how it began. Instead of the daughter on the ground, now it's a father. No resurrection.
Oh, wow. Yep.
If my theory from last episode is right, that we may be seeing two Furies, and this could actually be Soren, Soren would have just seen her husband die. But assuming it's just Fury, it's still another beloved be gone. Remember, Gaia asked Talos if he wanted to be home in his own skin. For Talos, to be home is really to die. And so for Talos, we'll close out with Raymond Carter's words. And did you get what you wanted from this life? Even so, I did. And what did you want? To call myself beloved, to feel myself beloved on this earth. And Talos, you'll always be beloved to us. Hey, and huge thanks to Noah Chen, Eric Francisco, Gina Polito, and Jordan Morris for their big help in writing this breakdown. Subscribe to all 3 of our channels and support us by grabbing some merch at nerdriot.shop. Follow me on all social channels at EA Boss. Follow New Rockstars. Thanks for watching. Bye.
Cool.
Yes. Thank you, Eric, for confirming. I think it's perfect confirmation. There's 2 Nick Furies. There's gotta be. There's no reason that for the first 3 episodes we would see Nick Fury switch back and forth between 2 distinct different outfits.
Right.
Like, why would that happen? We got multiple swaps from this outfit to that outfit to this outfit and back. There's no reason that the actual Nick Fury would make those costume changes like that, back and forth like that. It doesn't make sense. So there has to be 2 of them. That's my biggest takeaway from this. Although I do appreciate the deep dive into the literary background of Carver and his reason for writing that poem. That makes it even more like heartbreaking. Yeah. That was used for this relationship basically being destroyed or never really existing in the first place. Like that was a spy relationship. It was not a real one. Whew. Feel like he didn't really focus very much on who the Skrull that Rhodey was, and I think that's going to turn out to be very, very important.
Yeah.
Well, I really wonder who it is.
I'm curious too, and dazed and confused as always.
Yeah. But at least a little bit is explained, and I feel a little bit better about how it all went down. I do. I feel a little bit better.
I'm still like question mark.
This is a very confusing show, but it's designed to be that way. It's a spy espionage thriller, right? It's designed to keep us confused and on edge and not understanding what's going on. And we have 2 more episodes to go where we're going to get some reveals. But we'll
hopefully hopefully at the very last 2 we're not going to be super confused.
They might leave some of this stuff open-ended to
for
be
the next
resolved
episode
in future movies.
Yeah, true.
So
We'll see.
they may not wrap all of these loose threads up.
Yeah.
So.
Well, thank you again for tuning to our channel. Don't forget to give you love and support to
New
Rockstar. The link will be in our description below. Thank you for your love and support to our movie channel, to our movie show channel. Thank you for watching our videos to get the algorithm going. Thank you for subscribing to our Small Mighty channel to help us grow to 30K. Thank you again, and see you in the next video.